Hello aspirant, hope all of you are doing good. So today we are looking after the major syllabus of SSC, banking and for that matter any competitive examination. Under that the one of the core subject. See, very naturally if you go by the syllabus where we have all the other components like logical reasoning is there, mental ability is there, general studies is also there, and very naturally quantitative aptitude is all there, right? Under these all different segments, we are looking after the one particular segment, so or for that matter, which we officially called as the section, right? So that is GS. In that particularly, we have many subjects. For that matter, you have history, geography, polity, economy, environment, general science, science and technology. These all are the different subjects. Among these all subjects, there is a high possibility of getting the questions like if you go by the 100 questions format, 25 each per section it is there, right? So under that the 4 subjects like history, geography, polity, economy, these are called as the core subject, right? So as per the official syllabus of SSC, for polity or in simple language what we call Indian Constitution, the official name stands is General Polity and Indian Constitution, right? So regarding, see, we have to understand the meaning of the given syllabus here. They are asking general polity, okay. So for other competitive exams like UPSC and some other state PCS, they clearly mention Indian polity, okay. Here general polity and Indian polity, how it differs? More or less it is almost same, but general polity, it means every common person, right? So well educated person should supposed to know. For example, if you go by the PYQs analysis and all, out of this general polity and the Indian Constitution, if you go by the in detail analysis, what are the key areas they are asking the questions, right? So that is also very important aspect. Under that, very naturally, so when we are studying about our constitution and all, it is very quite natural to know what is the simple meaning of the constitution, right? So because there are many other areas on which as per the PYQ analysis we can identify the topics, right? Before that, what is this constitution, right? In very simple aspects, constitution, it is a simple book, okay? So in which a set of rules and regulations are mentioned. Now we are not talking about the Indian Constitution, we are just simply deciphering the meaning of constitution, right? Now a country can also have a constitution, like India, we have the Indian Constitution. Any of the political party can also have the constitution. For example, we have many nationalized parties, regional parties and all, they will also have their own constitution. Even for that matter, any family, your family may have the constitution. Again, what is the simple meaning? A set of rules and regulations. For example, the head of the family may decide few set or they would have set some rules and regulations like before 8 p.m. all the members of the family, especially the children and all, they supposed to be present at home, right? So for that matter, another rule may be before having food and after having the food, you are supposed to wash the hand. These are the basic etiquettes what we call, right? So for that matter, any political party if you take, their constitution may say that whenever you are in the part of this particular political party, you always should supposed to defend the move of the decision of the party, right? So that may be for that matter at that time, that may be in the, that party may be in the ruling or that may be in the opposition. The party high command might have passed any of the major resolution against the ruling party, right? So whatever may be the decision of the party, being a member of that particular party, you are supposed to respect it and you are supposed to defend. So that is what the constitution of that political party may define, right? Now looking for the Indian Constitution, right? What is Indian Constitution? Again it is a book, right? So in which a set of rules and regulations are written. For whom? For what purpose, right? So India is a diverse country, very naturally. We have the different languages, religion, right? So many communities we have, so many different festivals, so many different celebrations, right? So many different tribes and all. So in order to rule over these all the different sections of the society, there should be some common set of rules and regulations should be there, right? So that is what our Indian Constitution deals with. Now, Indian Constitution, what it is? It is a set of rules and regulations for what purpose? For the welfare of the country. How? By ruling over the masses of the country, or to make it a little bit of the political aspects and all, to rule over the citizens of this country by whom? By our political representatives. Again, if you get into a little bit of depth, our Indian democratic system, right? So how it works? It works with the three major components. One is your executive, legislative and judiciary, right? So very naturally, executive, the officer's role, legislature, our political representatives, and so judiciary, which checks both the role of the executive and judiciary. I hope now the meaning of the constitution is very much clear to you. The meaning of the Indian Constitution is also very much clear to you, right? Now, from examination perspective, very naturally, this is a very diverse field. Any competitive exam you take, that may be SSC, banking, UPSC, state PCS, any of the competitive exam you take, it is like a very open-ended. But in order to succeed in this field, what are the two major components? Who are your two best friends here? One is the official syllabus given by the respective exam conducting bodies, right? So SSC is there, IBPS is there, SBI is there, okay, UPSC is there, state PCS is there, right? So their respective syllabus, and second one is PYQs, that is previous year question papers, right? So syllabus tells you what to study. Previous year question paper tells you to what depth you are supposed to study, okay? I hope this is very much clear to you. So considering these all aspects, let's look after this one of the core important component for any competitive examinations, right? So well, let's start with this, okay? All right. So the general polity and Indian Constitution, so it is being presented by me, Nagaraj Nimbalkar, okay? So here, if you go by the PYQ analysis and all, we have totally for this particular one segment, that is what we call as the general studies segment, right? So in which, as I already mentioned, history, geography, polity, economy are the core subjects, right? So now what is the weightage of this polity? Okay, so very naturally the polity subject plays very important role, and on an average every year you will have around 6 to 7 questions. If you go by the PYQ analysis, on an average around 5 to 6 are the minimum number of questions I am talking, right? So because out of 25, the exam conducting body, they are supposed to cover all the other components also, which I again repeat, like history, geography, polity, economy, environment, general science and science and technology, right? So and for SSA and all, GK, that is general knowledge. So for example, the highest mountain in the world, the longest serving prime minister, the longest serving chief minister of a state. So like these kind of some of the static questions will also be asked. And if you go by the very broader aspect as per the demand of the examination, more or less in 25 question itself only they have to cover these all the areas, right? So in the 25 questions, around 5 to 6 questions will be majorly from this general polity and Indian Constitution, right? So then very naturally, sir, when this much is important, so before you start, let us know the important topics also. Yes, definitely that is also very much important, and this is one of the very smart strategy to crack any of the competitive examination. Unless and until you know pulse of the exam conducting body, for that matter SSC, banking or any competitive exam, it is very difficult to know the success mantra in that one, okay? So in this also, for polity as well as this Indian Constitution, the major questions, if you go by the past 5 to 10 years of the PYQs, the one of the very important component is parliament, okay? So the parliament consists of very naturally the Lok Sabha is there, Rajya Sabha is there, President of India is there, okay? So this is one major component. Along with that, the role of the Vice President, Prime Minister, okay, and some of the constitutional bodies, for that matter, Election Commission of India is there, Finance Commission India is there, Controller and Auditor General is there. Okay. So these are the another component. One is your parliament, along with that state legislature also important, the Vidhana Sabha, Vidhana Parishad, role of the governor. Okay. So the cabinet system, council of ministers. So along with that, some of the constitutional body, Supreme Court, High Court, and some of the very important articles, schedules. Okay. And for that matter, the number of parts also. These are the very common areas in which there is a very high possibility of expecting the good number of questions, right. So very naturally, the Indian constitution, which we supposed to stick now, it is one of the elephant size, you can say, very bulky. Sir, when the document is itself bulky, then how we supposed to study that one, right. So in order to make that document to read you and understand very simple, our constitutional makers, or for that matter some of the experts, they have divided the whole constitution into, first thing, number of articles, second thing, number of parts, and third thing, number of schedules. Now presently if you go by the official data, so there are more than 400 plus of articles are there. Now again the question rises, sir, all the 400 articles are important? Very naturally no. Okay. So as I have already mentioned, some of the specific articles related to the President of India, the Parliament, its functions, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, High Court, Supreme Court, State Legislature, constitutional bodies. So these are the important articles which are very much essential over there. Along with that, so when we go by the parts, right, so presently we have 25 parts. The whole constitution is divided into 25 parts, and in that also particular parts are deal with particular aspects. So that's why again out of these 25 parts, very few of them became very important. For example, part 3 deals with what? That is fundamental rights. Part 4 deals with DPSP. Part 4A that deals with the fundamental duties. Okay. Part 18 that deals with the emergency provisions. So like this, very few and selective parts are very important. The another component is the schedules, right. So presently we have the 12 schedules, and each and every schedule deals with the major component or the developments that takes place in India. So for the example, UPSC also as well as SSC also, many times they have asked about the 10th schedule. 10th schedule of the Indian constitution deals with what? So that is anti-defection law. Okay. So we'll look into that each and every aspect. I hope now the very basic is very much clear to you. First thing, what is constitution? Second, what do you mean by Indian constitution? Third, how we can study such a bulk Indian constitution which is considered to be the elephant size. Okay, too bulky. So in order to understand this bulky document in a simple form, again we have segregated our constitution into 400 plus of the articles, more than 12 parts, more than 25 parts and 12 schedules. Okay, right. So now, so it is very beautifully, important topic from examination perspectives also, and for that matter, being a responsible citizen of this country, it is very natural and it is very important to know how this whole constitution evolved, right. So what are the rules and regulations? What do you mean by fundamental duties? Whether it is binding on any of the citizen, right? So maintaining the, the decorum of the society, behaving good with our neighbors, being a respected as well as the more responsible citizen of this country. So these are the some of the set of rules and regulations. Some of them are, compelling on any of the citizen of this country, they must and they bound to follow. Some are moral in nature. It is like if you follow, that would be a great aspect. Okay. So under these all circumstances, the very basic syllabus starts with the historical background, right. So and here I am taking some of the standard books for the reference purpose, and in that particularly Lakshmikant is considered to be the Bible for polity, for that matter, SSC, banking, any of the other competitive examination also. So, for 5 to 6 marks, is it necessary to read such a bulky of 600 to 700 pages of Lakshmikant book? Not necessarily. Okay, I am here to make you those things only in simplest of the simple form, where you can understand the demand of the exam as well as the demand of the particular text also. Okay, so well, let's continue. Well, so after knowing the meaning, the simple meaning of constitution, Indian constitution and all, now it is quite interesting to know how today's Indian constitution evolved. Okay, the very background for this one, it is somewhat associated with your modern Indian history also. So in that, you might have heard about the Battle of Plassey, Battle of Buxar and all. Okay. So the Battle of Plassey, so that was fought in the year of, yes, so that was fought in the year of 1757, right. So that was fought in the year of 1757. So this is your Battle of Plassey. Okay. In the year of 1764, there was this Battle of Buxar. Okay. So the Battle of Buxar, that is considered to be one of the turning point in the Indian history, not just in terms of the political history, in the economic history also it played the very important role. Sir, how? The question is, how the Britishers made this Battle of Buxar to establish their economic superiority over the India, right. So the Battle of Buxar, this battle was concluded with the Treaty of Allahabad. Okay. The Treaty of Allahabad that took place in the year of 1765. By this Treaty of Allahabad, Britishers officially got the revenue collection rights of 3 major villages. Okay. The combination of these 3 villages today what we call as the Calcutta. Okay. So by this, the Britishers, first thing they became politically supreme. Now economically also they became supreme by getting the revenue collection right. Okay. By getting the revenue collection right. So that's why the Treaty of Allahabad, that is considered to be one of the major turning point in the India's both political as well as economic history. Sir, now this, how this particular Treaty of Allahabad will going to have the impact in our constitution. Okay. See, it is very simple to understand. Britishers, they never wanted to take any of the development activities or progressive measures for the development of India. Their major purpose was to loot. Okay. So how much it is possible to loot any of their colonized country, just loot it. Okay. And we, India is one of the victim. But whatever the development work they took, that may be the telegram system, that may be the construction of roads, railways and all, that is not for the welfare of India. This is for their more convenient to reach maximum remote areas of this country. Okay. So under these all circumstances, now how the events have took place from 1765 till the time of our independence, that is 1947. Okay. So this is again the core part of your modern Indian history. So very naturally, out of this core modern Indian history, few components are very much essential to understand what were the things happened in India. Okay. Because it is a very in that political journey, there are so many developments happen. Okay. So out of those all developments, how it impacted on framing the further roadmap for India is also very essential, right? Yes. Here one more thing to note, when Britishers came to India, okay, so that is through when the Queen Elizabeth, she had given her permission, that is to go and establish your company in the name of the British East India Company in India and some of the other eastern countries and all, right. So what was the basic condition she put? The condition was very simple. Whenever the British East India Company is colonizing any of the country, so very naturally whatever the revenue they have generated from there, they have to share some good amount with the Queen Elizabeth. Okay. So for India also, whenever the British East India Company, they decided to start in India to establish in the year of 1600 and all, the same kind of the agreement took place between the British East India Company as well as the Queen Elizabeth. Okay. Now, when this British East India Company that was established in India, so the Britishers, they are busy in expanding their control over India and all. So these are the political developments were happening from the time of 1600 itself only. Okay, because you will come across so many different acts and all, right? So those all acts are meant to control over this particular British East India Company itself only. Under those acts, the very first act what we call as the Regulating Act of 1773. Now, if you go by the literal meaning, Regulating Act, who is regulating whom? Right. So this is the question. So this act that is being passed in 1773 by the British Parliament. So very naturally on the order of the Queen Elizabeth itself only, the first act, that is what we call as the Regulating Act, was passed in the year of 1773 to regulate whom? To regulate the British East India Company, which was established in India. What was the reason? When Britishers established their company in 1600 and they got the Diwani rights through this Treaty of Allahabad in 1675, still they never shared a single penny with the Queen Elizabeth. Reason being, whenever the Queen asked about the profit, whatever they have incurred to share with her, these British officers who are highly corrupt in nature, they are busy in enjoying their lavish life in India. So that's why the Queen Elizabeth said, now we will follow the legal route. Okay, we will have the legal backup, that is by establishing some of the major laws and which is being passed by the Britain Parliament and converting into act to control over the British East India Company that is being established in India. Under that, the very first act, what we call as the, that is what we call as the, is the Regulating Act of the 1773. From here onwards, the actual polity starts and ultimately this resulted, this is all the general polity, okay, because now we are studying into the, what are the major developments happened here and all, and where it stops by the time of the Constitution of India and the official adoption of the same, okay, from 1773 to, okay, 1857, okay, from 1858 to 1947. So this phase is called as the company rule. Is it? Yes. From here onwards, it is called as the crown rule. Okay. So here the things are very much simple. One, from 1773, that is what? From the time of Regulating Act to the first war of independence, that is 1857, the whole aspects were being controlled by the company, right? So which is that company? That is British East India Company. They were looking after the all the political, legal, economic developments that was happening in India. When the British East India Company failed to control the 1857 revolt and whatever the background things that was happened to the blast of this first war of independence, that ultimately led to take a very major decision by the Britain Parliament, or for that matter Queen Elizabeth. Now she said from 1858 onwards till the time of the independence, Indian Act of Independence, it will be completely overlooked by the Queen, that is crown rule. Crown means who is here? that is Queen Elizabeth. Okay, so the direct control of Britain Parliament over India. So here the change in the power of the officer, the change in the designation. Okay, so earlier by this year it all called address as the Governor Generals. From here onwards it is all started addressing as the Viceroys and all. Okay, so this is how the developments happens. Let's look into one by one. So from examination aspect, what is important here? Very naturally, these all are the story which you are supposed to know, right? From exclusive examination perspective, so far they have asked about these major important acts, their order. Okay, so that became very important. So you are supposed to know what are the major acts, in which year which act took place. So that became important from the examination perspective. And very naturally for SSC and all, that may be tier 1, tier 2 or for banking examination purpose, the questions will be one step, the toughness of the question will be one step below as in compare standard with the UPSC. UPSC, they are asking the statement oriented, they are asking, they are twisting the options also. For SSC banking, so still compared to UPSC, the level of standard of the questions and all, it is just little bit of below to the standard of UPSC. So for your basic understanding purpose, out of interest, see, when you exclusively study for the sake of examination, that fear factor start dominating over you, right? So if you start learning just for your sake purpose, for your better understanding purpose, so that you can learn and enjoy your studies, right? So for your basic understanding purpose, just know what are the developments happened. So how we got the independence, it is not the only the freedom movement, that is the major role. Along with that, what were the other developments, how the different acts, the provisions of the different acts, these all played the very major role in that one. Okay, and under these all circumstances, now we will quickly look after the important provisions of all these acts, so that you can, whenever the questions are being asked to you based on this particular different acts and all, you will be in a condition to answer without committing any mistake, right? And if you go by the syllabus also, okay, so just for the quick revision purpose, what is the syllabus, how this all flow will continue mean, it all starts with the framework of the India's constitution. What is the framework? Framework is nothing but how our whole constitution evolved, right? So in that, as I already mentioned, our modern Indian, some of the historical developments also takes place, as we already seen the Treaty of Allahabad and all. Okay, so after that we have the important different acts. It all starts with our Regulating Act 1773 till the time of our India's Independence Act 1947. Along with that, the making of the Indian Constitution, how our Constitution evolved, what was the role of the drafting committee, who all were the members and all. Along with that, the silent features of the Indian Constitution, right? Now we exclusively shifted from general polity to the Indian Constitution. Getting the point, right? In general polity, where we will be knowing the background of the important developments which ultimately led to the final ready of this document called the Indian Constitution, right? So under this, where you have the silent features of the Indian Constitution, what do you mean by preamble, what are the key important words mentioned in the preamble, that may be sovereign, socialist, democratic, republic and all. Okay, so then what is this union and territory, okay, how many union territories we have, which union territory will be head by the lieutenant governor, which union territory will be the head by the administrators and all. Then what do you mean by citizenship, right? What are the recent developments associated with this? Okay, then fundamental rights, what do you mean by fundamental rights, their futures, important articles associated with this, is there any important cases associated with this? Then DPSP, what we call as the directive principles of state policy, fundamental duties, basic structure. Okay, so the major reference I have taken is the Polity by Lakshmikant itself only, because for SSC, banking, UPSC and other competitive examination, it covers maximum of the maximum portion. Yeah, but for SSC banking, not whole the syllabus is very, very important. Selective part is very important. So that is what I am here to give you that clarity. Okay. Then system of the government, what is the role of the parliament, role of the state government, center-state relations, important committees and all. Okay. What is this emergency provisions, role of the president, prime minister, vice president. Okay. Then at the local body, what are Panchayat Raj, constitutional provisions associated with Panchayat Raj and all. Okay, right. Then some of the constitutional bodies, as I have already mentioned, Election Commission of India, Finance Commission, CAG, right. So these all are there. And what are these political dynamics? What do you mean by elections? Committees important associated with that. So these all are the overall polity aspect in which there is a high possibility of getting the good number of questions, like around 5+ questions from this whole polity. Okay. So based on the PYQ analysis and all, so how much content is required from the examination perspective and for your basic understanding purpose, that definitely I will deliver and make you understand. Okay. Right. So to understand the historical background, as I have already mentioned about the important acts, that all starts with the Regulating Act of the 1773 till the time of 1947. Quickly we will look after what were the major developments and where is the high possibility of asking the question from examination perspective, right. So very naturally the first act will become very, very important, since this is the very basic aspect from which the Britishers officially started controlling over India. So very naturally Queen Elizabeth, the Britain Parliament, the developments is one side, but officially through this Regulating Act of 1773, the things started changing and evolving in India. What is the very first aspect? Okay, so first thing, it is meant for the control over the company. Okay, so that is British East India Company. And second aspect, the designation of the Governor of Bengal. Okay, so again, just for a very basic idea purpose, the Britishers, during the time of the Britishers, the Bengal provinces played very, very important role. I am not just talking about the today's West Bengal, I am talking about the Bengal province. Okay, Bengal province consists of today some part of the Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Odisha, and very naturally West Bengal. So that particular area. Okay, so because during Britishers' time, instead of states and all, their major focus is on the provinces, because one province means it is equivalent to 4 to 5 states. For example, another provinces is Bombay provinces, another one is this one, our old Chennai provinces and all. Okay, accordingly we have these kind of the different provinces in which the Britishers were master in controlling over the different good number of the states and all. So Chennai, today's Chennai. So at that time it was called as the Madras provinces and all. Okay, right. So what is the importance of this Regulating Act 1773? The Governor of Bengal. So the designation changed, very naturally the more power comes with more responsibility, right. So here the designation changed, the role changed, the responsibility changed. What was the second aspect? So the establishment of the Supreme Court of Calcutta. See, now what we see, today's capital of India is New Delhi. Okay, so earlier, that means during the time of Britishers, Calcutta was their capital and which got the very high provinces at that time. It is during some of the political calculations and all, the capital from Calcutta, it is again shifted back to Delhi and all. So here, that's why it was called as the Supreme Court at Calcutta, not at the New Delhi. So this is again very important aspect. The same question was being asked in UPSC examination also. Okay, so that's why. So this has become very important. And any competitive examination in India, for that matter, that may be SSC, banking, UPSC, IBPS, some of the state pieces and all, it is purely a psychological game. Okay, because first thing, the 80% of the syllabus is common to all the examinations. What they will do, whichever the examinations, the recently that one is asked, they will take the theme. Okay, based on that they modify the question and they will ask in some of the other questions. So here, since the question was being asked in UPSC and all, there is a high possibility of asking or they expecting the same question in the SSC and banking and all. Okay. So, the another one, the next act was called as the Amendment Act of 1781. Since some of the loopholes in the Act of 1773, just to modify that one, so this 81 Act was that was being passed by that one. Okay. So, some of the important act called as the Act of Settlement or the Declaratory Act. So, that was being passed through the 1781. Okay. And some of the companies servants were exempted from the Supreme Court jurisdiction, right. As we have seen here, the Supreme Court of Calcutta was being established. So, now the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court supposed to be there, right. So, in this act what they did means servants of the company who were serving for the company, right. So, that is British East India Company, those all were exempted from the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. In simple meaning, those who were working for the Britishers or for that matter British East India Company, if they commit any mistakes, they commit any crime, they will be exempted from the punishment. That is the simple meaning. Okay. So, moving further, so some of the revenue matters, civil matters, right. So, they have segregated over there and they had the limited control here. Okay. Right. So, along with that, the provincial courts could taken to be the Governor General in Council and not by the Supreme Court. Okay. So, very clear cut directions by the Britain Parliament, and that is being established here in the form of the different acts and all. Another one is the this one Pitt India Act. Okay. Pitt India Act 1784, right. So, Court of Directors and Board of Directors. So, this is again it was being divided the roles and responsibilities of the company, British East India Company, because the Court of Directors, they used to look after the commercial aspects. Court of Directors. This question is very important because in which act the segregation of the roles and responsibilities of the company was being established, right. So, that is through Court of Directors, they look after the commercial aspect, whereas the Board of Directors, they looked after the political affairs. Okay. Because when the British East India Company was established in India in the year of 1600, the major purpose of that company was only trading purpose. Okay. They never intended to get any of the political supremacy over India, or for that matter, they were not interested in the economic involvement or for that matter collection of the revenue and all. It is over a period of time the loopholes in the Indian administration by the regional rulers and all that ultimately given scope for the Britishers to enter into the political aspects of the British for Britishers to enter into the India and all. So, that is why the company no longer just remained as the commercial aspect, that also got the political powers now. Okay. Right. So, here it is again moving further in 1786 Act, right. The Cornwallis was appointed as the Governor General of Bengal. So, very important, the first Governor General of Bengal. Okay. Because earlier through Regulating Act we had the Governor of Bengal, right. So, the designation changed to Governor General of Bengal. Now, who was the first Governor General of Bengal now? So, that is the answer is Lord Cornwallis through the Act of 1786. Okay, right. So, Commander in Chief of the respectively some of the provinces and all. So, it is all about the different rules, regulations, how the Britain Parliament they intended to look after the aspects or the developments in India. That is how it is being started controlling over the role of the company in India through having these some of the important acts and all. Okay. So, moving further and very naturally here one more important aspects to be note here is that is through this 1784 first thing we had the Court of Directors and the Board of Directors. This is what ultimately called as the dual government. Okay. So, this is again very important. Next, moving further, the Charter Act of 1793. Okay. Some of the political control they took under them, and extended the trade monopoly of the company in India for another 20 years. Whenever the Queen Elizabeth is to give that permission, okay, so that is majorly meant for the 20 years. Here the trade monopoly means the company of this British East India Company, they again continue their trading activities in India with the some of the other countries for the next 20 years. That is what called as the trade monopoly. Okay. So again, if you look by the 1819 Act and all, so here what we did means we had this in the form of this box, so that you can easily understand, you can easily differentiate. Okay, if there is a need rises, definitely we will share this document in the respective, otherwise we will pin with the content and all. Okay, so 1793, right? So provided commander-in-chief not to the member of governor, members of council and all. See, as I already mentioned, to understand specifically the first and the second topic, it is very much essential to have the very basic background about the modern Indian history topic. Then only you will enjoy and understand it in a better way. The Charter Act of 1813, right? So it ended the monopoly of East India Company in India, right? So except the company's monopoly, trade with China, trade with tea with India and all. So this is again very, very important. So this was already asked in the examination. Okay, right. So sovereignty of the British crown over the company's territories. Okay, again this was asked in UPSC. It allowed Christian missionaries to come into India. The very, very, very important question, right? So because whatever the English language we are using today, without the entry of Christian missionaries in India, it was not possible. Over a period of time, the purpose of these missionaries and all that have changed. They are busy with converting the people and all. But from examination perspective, the entry of Christian missionaries in India through this government of India, this Charter Act of 1813. If you observe, some of the acts are called as the Charter Act, some of the acts are called as the Government of India Act, some of the acts are called as the India's Council Act. There is a little bit of difference among these all things. Charter Act means it is majorly by the Britain Parliament. Okay, when the things the Britishers started considering the native senior politicians, okay, for that matter the freedom fighters and all, then it had got the touch of the Government of India Acts and all. There is a very simple difference. Okay, moving further, 1833, right? So if you observe, the difference is again 20 years from 1813. So this is again 1833. So the Governor of Bengal now became the Governor General of Bengal. Okay, the designation is changing. That means the responsibilities is also changing. So for that matter, who was the Governor General, first Governor General of Bengal, right? So that was the Lord Cornwallis, right? Here the Governor General of Bengal, now they made it as the Governor General of India. Okay, who was that person? That is the Lord William Bentinck. Okay, very, very important. So the first Governor General of India, right? So it deprived the governors of Bombay and Madras and their legislative powers, right? So as I already mentioned, the Britishers earlier, they were busy in administration of the India through the provinces. Under that, Bengal provinces, another one is the Madras provinces and Bombay provinces were the very, very important. Here through this 33 Act, they deprived the power of the Madras and the Bombay presidency. It means now they are working under the supremacy of this Governor General of India. Okay, so from here onwards, whatever the laws that was being made, okay, so acts were now started knowing as the regulations and all. Okay, so now the British East India Company now purely that is remained for the sake of the administrative purpose only. Okay, right. So after this 1833, now it is again the term of the 1853. In this separated the legislative and executive functions of the Governor General Councils and all. So very naturally, the Governor General of India, that is Lord William Bentinck, now he started expanding his team, the different responsibilities, considering the and taking into confidence of the senior freedom fighters and all into his cabinet and all. Okay, So it introduced the open competition for the civil services. So it covers the different examinations, because earlier there was a time if you want to appear for the UPSC, what we today call, at that time you are supposed to be right in Britain itself only, not in India. Okay. So through this act it was open to the Indians also. Okay. So these are the few major developments through these acts and all. Now Government of India Act. So from here onwards, as we have seen, earlier it was the company rule from 1773 till the time of the 1858. From now onwards, from 1858 onwards to till the time of 1947, it is purely called as the crown rule, because when the company failed to control the first war of independence that took place in 1857, the Queen Elizabeth decided to take control over all the aspects of this company. So that is through the Government of India Act 1858. Now here onwards, the Act for the Good Government of India. When the Britishers, they experienced the heat of this first war of independence, now they started considering more number of Indians into the India's administration. Now they got the very clear message, right? In order to control and rule over India, it is very much essential to consider the major role of the Indians in their administration and all. Okay, right. So here again the designation changed. Earlier it was the Governor of Bengal, Governor General of Bengal. Okay, then Governor General of India. Now it is officially called as the Viceroy of India. Okay. From here onwards, the Queen Elizabeth, she had this one more new appointee, that is Secretary of the State. Okay. So she directly established the Secretary of the State. Through the Secretary of the State, she is to control over the India with communicating and having control over the Viceroy of India and all. So this is how again so many development things happened. 1861 again important act, right. So it was, if you remember, we have seen in the previous act the powers of Madras and Bombay Presidency, the powers of their rulers and all, that was deprived, right. So that was centralized. Now it is being decentralized again through the 1861 act and all. Okay. Now moving further to the 1892 act. Okay. So again the official members in the this Viceroy's Executive Council and all, that was being retained. Okay. So right. Again one of the very important act, so that is Morley Minto reforms, what we call as the 1900 Government of Indian Council Act 1909. Okay, Morley Minto reforms, very important. So the separate electorate for the Muslims. Okay, the communal touch for the India's, for that matter, freedom movement also you can say. So the Britishers, now they started breaking the unity of the Indians through creating that difference between Hindus, Muslims and other minorities and all. Government of India Act 1919, officially it is called as the Montagu-Chelmsford Act, very important act, because responsible government and all, bicameralism, communal representation. Here in this act it was only extended for the Muslims. Here Sikh, Christian, Anglo-Indians and all. Okay, so there was a diarchy in the provinces, right. So these are the different areas, and very important one is the Government of India Act 1935, because whatever the major provisions you see in today's India's constitution, so that is majorly borrowed from this Government of India Act 1935. Very abolition of the diarchy, provincial autonomy. Okay, so very major developments took place through this particular act and all. Last one is our India's Independence Act. So officially we got the independence, but for that purpose, what were all the major developments happened? So that was through this Indian Independence Act 1947. Okay, so right to see it from the Britishers, Commonwealth and all, Constitution Assembly, formation of the Constitution Assembly, like this, so many developments happened over there. Okay, accordingly, by this we have seen the first aspects, that is historical background of the Indian Constitution. It all starts with the Treaty of Allahabad 1765 when the Britishers officially got the revenue collection rights of the three major villages over a period of time, that is being called as the Calcutta city and all. So, in order to control over this British East India Company, the Queen Elizabeth, she decided to regulate this East India Company, that is started with the Regulating Act of 1773 and till the time of 1947, this is what the overall development of the India's constitution. Now, here onwards itself only, how and other aspects that ultimately lead to the formation of the Indian constitution, right. So, that is what already as we have seen, the Indian constitution, its formation, its origin, making, silent futures and its application part, okay, parliament, president, prime minister, state legislature, everything will be studied in a step by step, okay.